So yeah, today I'm going to be taking you through some cocoa butter painting. I'm going to whiz you through painting some autumn leaves. And my demo is really kindly sponsored by, and I'm going to read this so I don't get it wrong, by More Than Cake and also Cakes and Sweet Treats. So at the end of the demo, I'm going to ask you a question and one of you are going to win some goodies from those guys. So that's really exciting. So listen nice and closely, and I will ask you a question at the end which is related to me. And you've got a chance to win some lovely goodies from More Than Cake and Cakes and Sweet Treats. Okay, so Debbie says the sound isn't great. I hope everybody else is having everything's okay with the sound. Chrissy, if you can let me know if the sound's okay your end, that would be amazing. I'm doing this through a piece of software, so sometimes there's a little bit of a delay with the comments, so I don't necessarily see your comments in exactly real time. There's a little bit of a delay. So, but I can see your comments and I will answer as many questions as I can through the demo. Okay, Jackie says you can hear me fine. Super clear on your phone. Okay, so I think it's okay for most people. So it might just be a little tweak on your phone or your laptop, whatever you're listening to, okay? I've got a big microphone up there, so I'm hoping that it's all right. Okay, so I think we better crack on, really. I am well known for cocoa butter painting, and you can probably see in the background some of my cakes. I mainly specialise in cocoa butter painting flowers on wedding cakes. So wedding cakes are kind of the primary part of my business, but I also teach a lot. I teach all around the world, and I do lots of online things now, you know, as we've all had to learn over the last, 9 months. So with cocoa butter painting, it's such a versatile medium, and I can really recommend it as something to add to your kind of arsenal of cake decorating skills. It's a really lovely thing to do. Okay, so I'm going to do some autumn leaves for you today because we're coming into that time of year, and I'm just going to show you some of my inspiration, because I think finding yourself some inspiration is kind of your first port of call when you want to do painting on cakes or something like this. So I've just been online and I've printed out some really lovely things from Pinterest. So these are just literally some autumn leaf sheets, and these are going to give me the shapes and things that we're going to paint. And I'm going to be painting with cocoa butter paint. For those of you who've not watched me work before, this is the paint that I use all of the time, okay? So cocoa butter paint is mixed from cocoa butter. This is the cocoa butter that I use. This is from Squires Kitchen. All of the products I use are from Squires Kitchen because I'm an ambassador for them, and I love their products. They do ship internationally, but I know there's some restrictions with various foodstuffs, so do check with them, but you can order online. So I use cocoa butter from them, and cocoa butter comes as these little callets, so they're like little nuggets of cocoa butter, almost like little chocolate drops. It's a chocolate product, so they're kind of like a little chocolate drop, and they smell really nice, but it's an oil. So you can get it as a big hard lump cocoa butter, or you can get it as a dust, a powder, but I prefer to use these little nuggets because I think they're a lot easier to handle. If you source your cocoa butter from somewhere that's not food based, so not a food website or or like a cake decorating company, just make sure that the cocoa butter you're buying is food grade, because cocoa butter is also used in the beauty industry and they blend it with lots of other oils and things, and sometimes the cocoa butter you buy online that is for the beauty industry can be blended with essential oils and things like that, and you don't want that in your food. So just make sure you buy food grade cocoa butter, and that is then mixed with dust colours. So again, I've got, if I can get that close enough, you'll see them closer in a minute when I turn the camera around. So these dust colours are from Squires Kitchen again, but any dust colours will do. It just you need to make sure that it is a dust. Oil, the oil needs the dust to mix together. If you try and use a gel or a paste colour or a liquid colour, they've all got a little bit of water in them. So if you mix it with that oil, you're going to end up with a lumpy mess. You need it to be a dust colour, okay? So we've got our cocoa butter, we've got our dusts, and we'll talk about our paintbrushes before we get going. So everybody's saying that everything sounds okay. Azuma says you can't hear. I think it might be something on your computer. So have a little fiddle around, see what you can come up with. So paintbrushes. Cocoa butter paint, it's going to harden. It's going to go hard in your bristles and it's going to soften again. So you want a brush with a synthetic bristle. Don't go out and find yourself a really lovely artist brush with natural fibres. However beautiful they are to paint with, you're going to kill them with the cocoa butter. They are just, all the bristles are going to start breaking and falling out really quickly. You want a bristle that's a synthetic bristle. So these paintbrushes are actually nail art brushes, and I use these in all of my work because they're cheap and cheerful and they've got a synthetic bristle and they're really easy to work with and to find, okay? So I think we better crack on with some painting because I'm aware of the time and I want to get quite a lot done with you. Okay, so please do ask questions all the way through. I can see your questions on here, and I'll answer as many as I can as long as I see them. Letitia says she loves my accent. Oh, bless you. And Justin says the volume's all right there. I think maybe some of you are having issues with the volume, and I'm really sorry about that. So, so I'm going to twist the camera around so that you can see my hands, and we're going to get some painting done. Okay. So let me see if I can remember how to do this. Let's twiddle that on there. Now you should see, oh, there we go. You should be able to see my board here, and there's my colours, and this is my palette. So I've just iced a cake board here. It's just covered with white sugar paste, and this is what I'm going to be painting on for you. Okay, and icing a cake board is a really nice way of practicing, actually. It's a really good thing if you're trying to practice working, then it's almost like a little sketch pad. Don't worry about kind of having to ice cakes and things to practice on. Okay, so I've got my palette here, which is simply a plate sat on top of a bowl of boiling water. There's boiling water under there, and I've got my plate sat on the top, and if I twiddle it around, you can see my cocoa butter here has already melted into a little puddle. So I just popped my cocoa butter onto the plate, and the heat from that hot water underneath is melting that cocoa butter into a little puddle of cocoa butter goodness. So I'm going to just turn it back around again so you can see the colours. Hi Caroline, hi. Hi Heather, hi Rima. Oh, Chrissy said, please feel free to share the demo with all your friends. Yeah, please do. Share away, guys. Okay, so I'm going to start mixing some colours. I don't know if you can see that I've actually marked out some leaves on here already. Now, generally, I work freehand, so I would normally paint freehand. But because I'm doing this quite quickly for you guys, I wanted to make sure that I just marked some leaves out, so I haven't got kind of to think too much about the shape of my leaves. They're already on there. And all I've done is draw those out onto some parchment paper and then use a scribing tool to just go over the lines so that I've got like a vague outline under here. So you don't have to work freehand. So I'm going to do some maple leaves first. I thought they would be a nice thing to start with because the colours are so beautiful. So I'm starting with a white here, and I mixed my white to a paste, and I'm just going to add some colour into this. It's better to start with your lightest colours and then build from there. So build your colours from your lighter to your darker. So obviously yellow is the colour that I'm not going to kind of want to go muddy. So I'm going to use my yellow first. So maple leaves, I'm sure a lot of you are a lot more familiar with maple leaves than me. but I love them and I love them to paint. So I love the shape of them. I'm just going to start filling in the shape that I have marked out on here with some colour. Tammy says, I've just painted cookies with cocoa butter. I love the heated plate. The heated plate is brilliant. You know, you don't need lots of super technological answers to things. It doesn't need to be, you know, complicated. A plate and a bowl with some hot water does the job. Okay, so I am just putting the paint on my brush quite thickly. I want quite a lot of paint on there. And I'm just going in and just filling this shape with colour at this point. And I'm trying to build a ridge around the edge of each of my shapes because that gives it definition. I think you can, I'll come in a little bit in a moment so you can see things a little bit clearer. But I'm just trying to give my petals a bit of, not petals, I'm doing leaves today. I've got to remember I'm doing leaves, not petals. Gives my leaves a little bit of definition. So I'm just going to add a little bit of orange now and start kind of coming around the other side of this leaf with some orange. Oh, just bashed my plate. And we'll start blending some of these colours together. Cocoa butter paint is a lot like painting with an acrylic paint. You want a nice thick paint, something that's very similar to an acrylic rather than a watercolour. We're not using watercolour, and I think that's where people go wrong sometimes with cocoa butter paint, is they try and use it like watercolour and make it too runny. And we want a nice thick paint that we can blend together. Okay, so I'm just blending my colours, and because it's an oil, they blend really beautifully together. Okay, so you can see those colours blending beautifully together. I'm just going to put some more orange around here. Now, I've kind of guessed my maple leaf shape, so I think possibly maple leaves have got a few more little points and things than this, but it's an impression of a maple leaf, so we're all right. Okay, so I'm just going to use my finger. So with cocoa butter paint, because it is an oil-based paint, the warmth from a clean finger, obviously we're using food, so we need to make sure our fingers are clean. Mind you, I think everybody's fingers are clean at the moment. So the warmth from a clean finger, you can just use to blend that colour together, and it will just melt the cocoa butter slightly and help you blend and get a really lovely soft effect. Okay, so that looks really sweet already, but I'm going to add a bit more depth. I'm going to go in with some red. And cocoa butter painting is all about layering colours. It's all about adding colours and layering and building colours up. And that's why I love it so much, because you can just keep building colours on top of colours on top of colours, which is sometimes a little bit trickier to do with some of the other cake paints that are on the market. So you can see I'm just starting to build a bit of colour, a bit more colour, just to give it a bit more depth, make it pop. I always say to my students when I'm teaching, you know, we've all seen paintings that perhaps don't look as alive as they should, that maybe look a little bit flat. And it's all about the fact that you haven't got that difference between light and shade. You need to not be scared of adding dark colours, because those dark colours are what are going to make your... Oh, I've lost the power of speech already, Chrissy. I've not been doing it for very long. Those dark colours are going to make your work pop. It's what makes it look alive. Okay, so you can see I'm just shading that through now. So I've got my beautiful maple leaf here, and I'm going to do another one next to it, and I'm going to give this one some slightly different colours. So I'm going to go in with another brush. Can everybody still see me okay? I've read a quick comment there that whizzed past saying that it was a little bit blurry, so I'm hoping that it's okay now. Our Wi-Fi here in Cornwall, so I'm in lovely Cornwall in the UK, and I'm in a beautiful old Georgian building down in the basement, and our Wi-Fi, although 99% of the time, it's wonderful. Does have a little habit every now and again of dropping off. But fingers crossed, that's not going to happen today. If it does, bear with me and I will be straight back to you. So I am just now working with some green. I'm going to put some slightly darker green on there so you can see it a bit better. And just going to build up the shape of this maple leaf in this green. And again, I've mixed the green with some white to start with. The white actually bulks up the cocoa butter a bit and makes your paint completely opaque. Whereas, you know, sometimes it can be a little bit translucent if you just mix it with the cocoa butter by itself. I'm just going to move my plate over slightly. So if you mix it with the white, it just makes it a bit more translucent. So I'm just going to whiz round this one, some green. Chrissy said, did you hear me attempt to talk this morning? Stumbling. I know. I think we all get ourselves a little bit nervous about it, but once we're going, we're all right. Okay, so do ask me any questions you want to as I'm working, because I like nattering while I'm painting. So here we go. I'm just starting to build up the green side of this one now. And you can see literally simply with a few different colours, I've only used a couple of different colours here already. We've already got some really pretty effect. And I'm not doing the whole leaf in one colour. So I've done that side with the green, and I'm going to go in with a bit more of that yellow now, just to build up some colour over on this side. The leaves are already turning here in Cornwall. It's been a funny old year and it doesn't kind of feel like it should be autumn yet. But I mean, I can't complain because the weather has been beautiful down here. I even managed to swim in the sea yesterday, which was lovely. But yeah, the leaves are starting to turn already. So I've got some lovely yellow here. Coming into the green. Now because this one sat on top of this one, I'm going to add a little bit of shadow under here. Vindra says, is there a taste to the cocoa butter? Now that is a really good question. So if I was to eat one of those by itself, it tastes a bit, it just tastes oily. It just tastes like oil. It's not something you particularly want to put in your mouth, to be perfectly honest. It's not that pleasant to eat by itself. But once it's on the sugar paste, I don't think you can detect it at all. I don't think you can detect the taste at all. And I've never ever had anybody say that they can. I mean, obviously, if you were going to completely, you know, cover it with it, it might taste ever so slightly oily, but I have never ever had an issue with it. But that's a really, really good question, actually. It just tastes a little bit like chocolate, but without the sweetness, because it is a chocolate product. Okay, so I'm just adding a little bit of shading now, and again, like I said before, having these darker areas on your leaves actually really makes them start to come alive. Okay, so let's go in with a bit of darker green as well, because this one's not quite turned yet to its lovely red. I do think that the red of maple leaves is just beautiful. But you see, I've started with my light colours, and then I'm just starting to build my dark colours just to add some interest. So cocoa butter paint is it's really versatile. You can paint on all sorts of different things with it. You can paint onto sugar paste, which is what I'm obviously doing here. But you can also paint onto chocolate, onto tempered chocolate or chocolate ganache. You can paint onto royal icing, onto coloured sugar pastes. The The only thing that you would struggle to paint onto is buttercream, because the paint is warm. So you'd struggle with buttercream. Okay, so we've got our lovely 2 maple leaves here, and how quick were they to do? Really super quick. And I've only just built them up with a couple of different colours. It's all about just blending those colours together. Okay, so I'm going to do some oak leaves next for you. I'm going to do a couple of little oak leaves up here for you, and I'm going to start. Oh, let's change my brush because I've got green in that one. Okay, would you suggest synthetic brushes for acrylic paints and a flat or a round brush? Okay, Laura, so I prefer using a flat brush, as you can see here. And yes, they are absolutely synthetic. I only ever use synthetic brushes because they last a lot longer. Once this plate is sat on top of a bowl of hot water, once the hot water goes cold, I'm just going to pop some more brown on my plate in a minute. Once that hot water goes cold, your paint will harden and it will go hard. And then you just pop some more hot water underneath and it will soften again. But obviously that will happen, same thing will happen with your brush. So if you were to use a natural fibre brush, when your bristles, the paint hardens in your bristles, and then you soften it again and then it hardens, those bristles will snap really, really quickly. If you use a synthetic bristle, they're a lot more resilient and they will last a lot longer. So actually, it's the only case really with painting that a cheaper brush is better. Something that's sort of a simpler, cheaper paintbrush is actually a lot better for this than a lovely artist sable brush. Okay. Am I using powder mixed with cocoa butter? Yes, Elizabeth, I am. Powder mixed with cocoa butter. Okay, so I'm just marking, I'm trying to keep my hand out of the way so you can see, just marking in my oak leaf. Now, as I said to you when I started, I normally paint freehand, but I have actually slightly cheated today because I knew I'd have to do this quickly. So I have actually marked my leaf shapes on. Try not to walk on my table too much. So yeah, I have actually marked my leaf shapes on already. And all I've done is, you know, places like Pinterest are a fantastic source of, you know, leaf shapes and things, or flower shapes. I've simply just been online, found some nice leaf shapes. I could have just drawn them, but I kind of cheated. And found some nice leaf shapes, and I've just transferred those onto my board using a scribing tool. So I've just traced them onto parchment paper and then scribed them onto the board so that I've got a slight impression to follow as a guideline. And so, you know, you don't have to be daunted by, you know, painting with cocoa butter or painting onto a cake. It doesn't have to be freehand. You don't have to do it freehand. You can, you know, make yourself a guide, which will, you know, make your life easier. It doesn't have to be done completely freehand. So I'm just blending some colour down through the middle, just to give that some shape. And I'm just going to add a bit more shading at the bottom. Oh, Jackie, good question, says, if you make a mistake, what's the best way of correcting it? So, cocoa butter paint is really, really forgiving because it's an oil. I'm just going to add a little bit of yellow up there. Because it's an oil, it actually just sits on the surface of the sugar paste and it doesn't sink in. So you can use a trusty scalpel to just scrape the cocoa butter off. It doesn't actually sink into that sugar paste. So if I just do it on here, look, you can see really simply and quickly I can take that back to the sugar paste underneath. So you don't have to worry that, you know, whatever you paint on the cake will be there forever, and if you get it wrong, there's no way of changing it. You can absolutely correct any mistakes by, you know, scraping it off and moving things. You know, if you put something in the wrong place and decide that actually you'd kind of like it somewhere else, you can move it, which is brilliant. So let's do another little one under here. So I can recognise lots of names in the chat, which is lovely. And I know that some of you guys have watched me work before. Have any of you had a go at cocoa butter painting and enjoyed it? Because it is such a lovely way of decorating your cakes. It's a really lovely, really lovely medium to use. It's the thing I use, you know, the way I work all of the time. Sorry, I didn't understand. Can it be scraped off? Yes, Jennifer, it can be scraped off. So you can literally scrape it right back. You can take the colour off completely and go straight back to the sugar paste. So the paint would literally just sit on the surface, and you can scrape it off and go back to the sugar paste surface. Okay, which, you know, I think normally when I tell people that in a class, they all kind of breathe a little sigh of relief because it's not quite as scary anymore. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of green to this one, I think. So you can see with my palette, I'm just literally mixing my colours together like you would if you were working with a paint palette, like a sort of an acrylic palette or something like that. I'm just mixing all my paints together. And again, like I said, the lovely thing about this is when that paint goes hard, when the plate's cooled down, if you're working on something and you need to come back to it the next day, then you've got all your lovely paints still mixed and colours and things ready to go for the next day. So, you know, obviously we're working with food, and it's, you know, we've all got a deadline when we're working on real orders. We have to be mindful about how long things are going to take us. But, you know, sometimes things do take a little bit longer. And it's good to be able to have your paint there to come back to. Okay. Jackie says, you've practiced but you struggle with consistency and confidence. All I would say with confidence is practice, practice, practice. You know, ice yourself some cake boards and just practice. You're not wrong. You know, nothing you do is wrong. It's just creating. And, you know, everything you do is working towards getting better. So even if it's not, you know, the favourite thing that you've ever made, it's still, you know, you're working on your creative process, and it's getting you somewhere. So it's always worth it, whatever you create. Okay. I'm missing things because they're pinging past. Somebody said they've been enjoying doing it. Fenar, sorry if I said that wrong, said, is it dust? It is the dust mixed with the cocoa butter, not gel colours. Yeah. Oh, Chrissy, you're answering for me. Thank you. Bless you. So, yeah, I'm just going to carry on building up this colour, because again, this one sat on top of that one. So I want to make sure that I have some shadow under there. Okay. So cocoa butter is just so nice because, or cocoa butter paint is so nice because you can layer it. And I hope you can see that with this, that I am just building up each layer of colour individually and adding to it so that I'm creating these lovely shades on the leaves. And that's why I thought I'd do autumn leaves, because it's a really good kind of illustration for you of how you can use the paint to build up colour. And because it's a lovely thick paint, it layers on top of each other really nicely, and it dries really quickly. So, you know, you can see these ones that I painted already, they're dry. And the cocoa butter stays set unless you get it super hot. It will stay nice and set. Okay, so I'm just gonna blend that top out there. And I'll tell you what I'm gonna do, because I've just looked at that on the screen, and just add a little bit of highlight in here. Now, Jackie said you like how the colours pop. Oh, thank you, Avalon, bless you. You're really kind. The way you make the colours pop, it is all about this light and shade. It's all about having the confidence to add dark colours and light colours. So adding this dark green in here, adding this little flash of white that I'm just adding in here, just to separate those two leaves away from each other, because they were kind of merging into each other for a while, and I've now just separated them out just by adding that little bit of light. We've just highlighted that there a little bit. My yellow's gone cocoa buttery, so I might just pop a little touch of yellow in there just to make that pop away. So it's all about adding these darker colours and not being scared of using darker colours and using different colours to add, you know, add shading, and that's what's going to make your work come alive and look more 3D. Okay, so we've got our lovely little oak leaves here, we've got our maple leaves, so let's do, I think it was a sycamore leaf I've decided to do, and my mind's gone completely blank. No, it's not. It's a horse chestnut. Is that a sycamore? I think a sycamore is a horse chestnut. No, it's not. They're different. Gosh, I should know these things. I'm going to do a little horse chestnut leaf down here now. And that's going to start off green. So I'm just mixing some of my green here. And I'm just going to make this shape. Now, those of you who've seen some of my work or saw the cakes behind me earlier know that I mainly paint flowers, but actually I love painting leaves, and I don't get the opportunity to paint leaves very often because, you know, normally flowers are the star of the show. So normally you're putting all your time and effort into making the flowers super pretty and perfect. And you don't always get a chance to make the leaves as special. They're just there to frame the flowers. So it's actually really lovely to have the opportunity to paint leaves properly. Leaves are really important when you're painting flowers because they do make your flowers come alive. You know, if you're making sugar flowers, you're always making all of your leaves and things to go with them, because they frame those beautiful flowers you've made. And it's exactly the same with paintings. Those green leaves are going to make your colours really shine through. Okay, so just painting this leaf here. Simrat, I hope I've said that right. You said, can we paint over which type of frostings? Okay, so you can paint on sugar paste. That's what I'm doing now. So this is all fondant or sugar paste, which is this. And you can paint on white or you can paint on coloured sugar paste as well. Now, I'm just gonna tell you something. I work in a shared building with lots of different studios, and somebody has just turned up in the basement to paint a wall. So if you hear workmen, that's what's going on. My door is shut, but you know what workmen are like. They're probably going to be shouting in a minute. So apologies for that if you hear any of that. Anyway, I was saying, yeah, as Chrissy just said, pretty much anything other than buttercream. So chocolate, tempered chocolate, chocolate ganache, royal icing, sugar paste, any sort of different colours of sugar paste. I've even painted on perspex, so the lovely cake spacers that you can get at the moment, the perspex ones, you can paint on those as well, which is really exciting. Cocoa butter paint is so versatile, okay, and it's really easy because all you need is cocoa butter, dust colours, any dust colours, and some paintbrushes, and you've got a lovely medium to work with. So I'm just finishing off my horse chestnut leaf. Now, I love a horse chestnut. Somebody just said something about acorns. Oh, you've had an acorn fall off your tree and sporting a nice lump on your head. Oh dear. I think, you know, conkers from horse chestnut trees always hurt if they fall on you. So I'm just going to give this one some nice kind of crinkled looking edges with some brown. So I'm just going to go around the edge with some brown. Try not to get my hands in the way, sorry. Keep forgetting to move my hands out of the way. Okay. So as I said, you know, here in Cornwall, where I am currently, it is turning to autumn, and we have lots of these lovely autumn colours coming on the trees at the moment. Just feels a little bit too early this year. Okay. I'm just blending it through, and as I said, that warmth from your warm finger can just help you blend that colour through and just give you a nice soft finish. Okay. Pam, bought the cocoa butter and the flat brushes, but you haven't been brave enough to try. You should try. Ice yourself a cake board. Just ice a cake board. Now, with all of the things that I've said you can paint on, with the sugar paste, with chocolate ganache, all of those things, never try and paint directly onto a cake or a board that you have just covered. You want to let it set overnight, set for 24 hours, or if it's a cake board, then maybe try and set it, you can set it in the oven for a little while, but it needs to be hard, really. 2 reasons. The first is because however gentle you are with your paintbrush, you're still going to end up leaving little indentations if your sugar paste is really soft. And also, however careful you are, you will find that you try and lean your hand on your cake, because it's just natural. You're going to try and lean, you know, you're going to lean this part if you're painting upright, you're going to lean this part on your cake, or you're going to lean onto the board like I'm doing at the moment. And if it's not hard, you'll end up with big dents in it. So just make sure your cake boards or cakes are set before you try and work on them. Okay, so just by adding that brown around the edges, it's just made it look a lot more natural. Okay, I'm just going to add a slightly darker brown. How are we doing for time? We're doing all right. Just going to add a slightly darker brown just to add a bit of shadow and just make this come alive a little bit more. Okay. Carry on down here. Oh, thank you for all your lovely comments. I'm really glad you're enjoying it. Okay. So I'm just adding this dark colour just down one side, really, just to make the leaves look a bit more real, just to give them a little bit of depth. You can also kind of add some shading. I just take a little bit of that paint off my brush a minute. You can also add some shading up through the centre of each leaf. I'm not going to add a hard line because that would make them look a little bit kind of cartoony. But if I just add a little bit of shading up through the centre, then it will make those leaves look a little bit cupped. That'll make them look like they've got that central vein, and that they're sort of cupped over in the middle a little bit. Okay. Could you use the cocoa butter over a stencil? Yes, you absolutely could. So there's loads of lovely stencils on the market at the moment, and to be perfectly honest, I have been gifted some beautiful ones and I really want to have a play with them, but I haven't had a chance. I think, you know, it would work beautifully over a stencil. You could use a sponge, just a natural sponge or something to sponge it on, or you could use a paintbrush and either stipple it on or just gently brush it, and that would give you a really nice effect on the stencil. Okay, so we've added a little bit more detail to this one. So I'm going to go back now these ones have dried up here, and just add a little bit more of this kind of centre detail to these ones as well, just to kind of give them a little bit more texture and interest. I'm not going to do a kind of hard line through them. I'm just going to keep it nice and soft, keep my strokes nice and soft, so it's almost like a shadow of a line rather than an actual kind of hard line. Okay, I'm really glad you guys are enjoying it. It's lovely. There's so many amazing things coming up today. You're going to have just the best day. Some really lovely things. So I'm just blending that colour. Yeah. I'm just adding some of these details, okay? Wendy saying, when Emily turns around, there's one behind her. I think you're talking about the cake with the perspex tiers. Yes, I will point it out to you when I turn the camera back round in a moment. Okay, so we've got a little bit more kind of interest going on these leaves now, make them look a little bit more natural. And so you saw that I let these ones set a little bit before I started trying to add these details. But the cocoa butter paint does dry really, really quickly, as long as it's not super hot. It's quite warm in here actually, because I've just baked a load of cakes. So it's actually quite warm in my studio. So, there we go. Just a nice bit of shadow down there. You can use cocoa butter paint to add details to moulds. So if you've moulded something with sugar paste and then you want to add some details to it, you can use the cocoa butter paint and to paint faces on things and things. It's just a lovely medium, and we've all got dusts in our cake decorating kit. We've all got dusts knocking around because we use them for different things. So it's just a nice way of using your dusts. Okay. Always find it hard not to make them look flat. It's just all about that light and shade. It's all about adding your shading. Don't be scared of the darker colours. They're the thing that are going to make it come alive for you. It's just not being scared of painting those darker colours in. Okay, just going to give this one a little bit of a stalk actually. Let's do that at the bottom there. Okay, so we've got our maple leaves, our oak leaves, and our horse chestnut leaves. And I'm going to do some nice berries for you now. So I'm just going to find another clean paintbrush and mix some a paley red colour, if I've got some room on my plate. Just going to have to add a bit more white dust in a minute. Yes, Laura, these are all of the products I'm using at the moment are from Squires Kitchen. Now, I use Squires Kitchen, the cocoa butter and the dust colours, all of the time here in the UK. But I do know that it's a little bit trickier to get Squires Kitchen products some other places in the world. So any cocoa butter, as long as it's food grade, and any dust will work. But the ones I'm specifically using are from Squires Kitchen. Ah, thanks. Somebody's thank you, Leslie, for putting the link in. Bless you. It would really look lovely. These would look lovely on an autumn forest cake, Wendy. They would look lovely on an autumn wedding cake. I've done quite a lot of wedding cakes over the years with kind of autumn leaves and berries and things on. So I'm going to do some berries for you, and I'm going to start with a light colour and then we're going to build it from there. So I'm just going to do some nice little circles of this pale pinky colour. Just keeping an eye on the time because we're going to do the giveaway in a minute as well. But these ones won't take too long. So I've mixed, this colour is actually, what's this one? This is Cyclamen. I've mixed a little bit of Cyclamen with some white. And I'm just going to paint some berries on. Now, I always think the key with berries is don't make all your berries the same size, because in nature they would have all plumped up to different sizes. Okay, so don't make them the same size, and also bump them all into each other, overlap them. In nature they would be naturally all overlapping each other. Okay, so just think about those things. The lovely thing about painting nature is that nature in its nature is imperfect. So, you know, berries are all different shapes and sizes, leaves are all different shapes and sizes, flowers don't always all have the same number of petals. You know, sometimes leaves have kind of curled over and blown in the wind and things. So, you know, you don't have to worry about getting everything exactly right every single time. Okay. So, Chrissy said it was my birthday yesterday. It was my birthday yesterday, yes, it was. And I had a lovely day. Went for a lovely swim in the sea. My husband took the day off work and he said to me, what do you want to do for your birthday? And I said, you know what, all I want to do is go for a swim in the sea. So, you know, living in beautiful Cornwall, we've got the sea right on our doorstep. And we went for a lovely, well, I went for a lovely swim in the sea. And then we had lunch and it was lovely. It was great. So I can't complain. So I'm just building up these berries. And can you see that I'm kind of building them in a cluster? Because I'm going to add some stalks down here in a minute. Rather than sort of just doing a few, I'm building a really big cluster of them because berries tend to sort of hang out in big clusters and they're going to have a lot more impact on your work, on your cake, if you've got a nice big cluster of berries. Ah, thank you for all the birthday wishes. It's really kind, bless you. Bless you. Ah. I'm not sure if my birthday should count this year, because, you know, obviously the year's been a bit of an odd one, and I'm getting a bit close to 40, so I'm kind of feeling like maybe my birthday shouldn't count this year. But, you know, hey. So I have done my little cluster of berries, and I'm now going to start building these up with some more colour. So I'm just going to darken the colour down here. Ooh, let's mix that in, that was a big lump. And just start blending some of this darker colour through some of the berries, just to kind of make them pop and come alive. Okay. Now again, these haven't, the first coat hasn't actually quite set yet, so I'm just kind of going to blend these colours together, but you'll get to see quite quickly what it looks like as it comes together. Okay. That's really, all your birthday wishes are lovely, thank you, it means a lot. Okay. So let's keep blending these with a darker pink. And I'm using a kind of pinky red rather than a red, pretty much because that's what I had to hand. But we could add a bit of orange to this just to make them look a bit more kind of red. So let's keep going round these ones. trying to keep an eye on the time, Chrissy. I seem to have lots of time, and then the time seems to have just whizzed past. Don't want to be the first one to overrun. Okay, so there we go. Nearly there. So you can see that with the berries, I'm not covering the whole of the berry with the dark colour. I'm leaving some of that light colour poking out underneath. And that's kind of giving them the highlight. It's giving them a little bit of a highlight. Because it's actually slightly easier to kind of paint dark colours on top of light colours than the other way around. So I'm starting with that highlight to make sure I've got a highlight there. Then I'm going to just add a little bit, let's go in with a bit of orange with that red. Let's make it a little bit orangier. I'm going to add a tiny bit of brown as well, just to really darken it up. And then I'm just going to add just some darker colour. So where a berry sat behind another berry, I'm going to make sure I put a nice bit of shading there. And I'm just kind of putting dabs of colour in. I'm not worried too much at this point that it's super accurate. But you can see how that bit there, it's already sort of coming to life a little bit more. Okay, so I'm just going to come just round really quickly. Just that dark colour, and then just in there because that one's sat behind, just there, and then let's give it a nice little stalk quickly. You can't have berries on their own, need a little stalk. So I'm going to start here, give it a little central stalk going down, using a nice long thin brush to give you, if you use a long thin brush for things like stalks, it makes your line a lot more fluid. Okay, so I'm just going to add just some little stalks now, just to bring the berries all in together. Try and make your stalks kind of have an organic shape. You don't want them to all be straight. They need to have like little organic wiggles and curves just to make them look, you know, more real. And then what we can do lastly, if I can find a little bit of white on my plate, let me just put a tiny bit of white dust on here. We will do some white highlights. So I am aware of the time. So as I said at the beginning, there is a fantastic giveaway, and there's a giveaway with every demo. So if you watch every demo to the end, there's the opportunity to win some goodies. And my demo has been sponsored, I'm getting my piece of paper again. My demo has been sponsored by More Than Cake and M Cakes and Sweet Treats. And I'm going to ask you a question, and you need to answer in the comments, and Chrissy knows the number that I have chosen, and that person's comment will win some goodies. Now, you can only comment once, don't comment loads of times because they won't count. So I'm just adding a little highlight with some white while I'm talking to you. So my question for you all, if you've been listening nice and carefully, because I've said it a few times, is where in the UK am I based? So I'm just going to let that happen because my comments are a little bit behind yours. So that is my question. I will repeat it for you. Where in the UK am I based? So I'm just going to finish adding these highlights to these berries, and then that is our lovely little berry cluster. We can add a bit of white to some of these other leaves if we want to, but we don't need to. Okay, so that was my kind of whistle-stop tour through cocoa butter painting autumn leaves. Okay, so I'm going to twiddle the camera around while there's lots and lots of right answers going on. I'm going to let Chrissy sort that out. So I'm going to twiddle the camera around. Oh, congratulations, Karen. That's fantastic. And yes, I am based in beautiful Cornwall. Now let me twiddle the camera around for you. Oh, I'm just going to move this one out of the way. There we go. Hi, guys. Yes, I am based in beautiful Cornwall. And for those of you who said Truro, you get extra points from me because I don't think I actually mentioned that. So you already know where I'm based. So that's really lovely. So I'm going to show you what we've just painted. So we've done a lovely little selection of autumn leaves using cocoa butter paint, and these would be ideal for your kind of autumn celebration cakes. A comment whizzed past earlier who said that they were going to do them as cupcake toppers to paint on top of cupcakes. They'd be gorgeous for that. Maybe with some little squirrels or something. It would be beautiful. And autumn wedding cakes, you know, the cakes behind, oh, just threw that then on the table. The cakes behind me, obviously I generally paint flowers. Oh, this is the one with the perspex bit. I think you can probably just about see. But normally I paint kind of cascades of flowers and things down cakes. And obviously a cascade of these autumn leaves would be really pretty. Chrissy said wonderful on cookies. Yeah, they'd be lovely on cookies. So yes, you can paint on royalised cookies or sugar paste cookies. You can paint on macarons as well. That looks really nice. You can paint over gold leaf with cocoa butter paint and all sorts. Thank you so much for all your lovely comments. I'm so glad you've all enjoyed it. It's really, really lovely. And I was going to say to you, you know, if you don't follow me already, you can find me in all of the usual places. So you can find me on Facebook and Instagram as Emily Hankins Cakes. I also have a YouTube channel, so you can find me there as Emily Hankins Cakes. And I have just started a new Facebook group called Painting with Emily, a cocoa butter cake painting community. It's a bit of a mouthful. Painting with Emily, a cocoa butter cake painting community. Okay. But you can come and join me there because I've got some new online classes and things coming up soon. So you can come and join me there and you'll be able to find out stuff. And also we're a lovely community of cake painters. So there's lots of hints and tips and things. So that's a nice place to come and find me too. So, Kyla, I'd love to see it done on gold leaf. Maybe next time. Yeah, maybe I'll do that next time. I am so happy you've joined me. What I'll do in a minute is I will go through the comments and make sure I haven't missed anything, any of the questions and things. And if I have, then I'll answer them. I'll also take a little picture of the project that I've done, and I'll take a picture of the colours that I've used, and I'll pop that in there too so that you've got that for reference. So if you want to have a go yourself, then you've got a list of the things I've used. So I'm going to stop talking. I think I've said everything, Chrissy. Congratulations to Karen, who won the bits and bobs. That's absolutely brilliant. And thank you to the sponsors. And go and, you know, enjoy the rest of the day. I am followed by the fantastic Marilyn Baywall. I hope I've said that right, Marilyn. And she's going to be doing some things with pastelage, I believe. So, you know, stick around. There's going to be so much to learn today. And yeah, thank you for joining me. It's been a real pleasure to have you. So yeah, I'm off and I'll talk to you soon. Okay, bye.